My fiancé trapped me with a fake pregnancy and my best friend. Hey Reddit, so I'm Ethan, 30, and I'm pretty sure my life just imploded. My parents have always been distant. Like emotionally stunted robots obsessed with money. I've always felt like I had to earn their love, which probably explains why I'm such a sucker for validation. Now, that desperate need for connection has landed me in a mess. I'm talking betrayal, lies, and a baby that isn't even mine. Should I even start with how I found out? It was a Tuesday. Perfectly normal, sunny even. Serafina, my fiancée, had been acting weird for weeks, moody, distant, constantly on her phone. I'd brushed it off as wedding stress because, well, weddings are stressful, right? Wrong. So wrong. I came home early that day, surprised her with her favorite takeout, and found her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed with a notification from Caleb, my best friend since college. Now, I'm not usually a snoop, but something felt off. Call it a gut feeling. I glanced at the preview and saw "Miss you already." Last night was, my stomach dropped. Last night, Serafina told me she was at a girls' night. Lie number one. Shaking, I opened the message thread. It was worse than I could have imagined. Pictures, intimate pictures of Serafina and Caleb. My blood ran cold. I felt like I was going to be sick. Then I scrolled up. Weeks of messages, secret meetups, declarations of love, and then the bomb. I can't wait to tell Ethan the good news. He'll never suspect it's yours. My world tilted. What good news? Just then Serafina walked in, saw me with her phone, and her face went white. Before I could even speak, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant." Pregnant? With my best friend's baby, after she swore up and down she couldn't conceive because of PCOS. Lie number two, the big one. It was like a punch to the gut. I stumbled back, literally gasping for air. The room spun. Nausea rolled over me in waves. I couldn't breathe. I just collapsed onto the floor. My parents? Yeah, I called them, desperate for some kind of support. My dad's response: "Well, son, you're the one who chose her." My mom: "Maybe you weren't attentive enough." Are you kidding me? No comfort, no empathy, just to blame, like always. It was like being stabbed in the back all over again. Right then, sitting on my kitchen floor, surrounded by takeout containers and the wreckage of my life, I knew I was completely alone. Utterly and completely alone. Okay, so deep breaths. I somehow managed to get myself off the floor and confront them. Both of them together. I needed answers. I deserved answers. I marched over to Caleb's apartment, Serafina trailing behind me like a lost puppy, whimpering about how sorry she was. Sorry. Sorry doesn't even begin to cover it. Caleb opened the door, looking like he'd seen a ghost, probably because he had, the ghost of our friendship. "We need to talk," I said, my voice shaking with rage. Inside, I laid it all out. The texts, the pictures, the pregnancy, the whole disgusting mess. I demanded a paternity test. It was the only way to know for sure. And honestly, a small part of me was still clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, it was all a horrible misunderstanding. Yeah, right. Serafina started crying, those crocodile tears that made me want to scream. "Ethan, baby, it was a mistake. We were drunk. You've been so distant lately, so focused on work." She reached for me, but I flinched away. "Don't touch me," I thought. "Don't even breathe on me." Then Caleb chimed in. "Look, man, I'm sorry, it just happened. But Serafina needs someone to take care of her and the baby. You're in a better position financially, you can provide for them." Provide for them? His baby? Are you freaking kidding me? That's when I saw red. My vision blurred, my ears rang, my hands curled into fists. I wanted to punch something. "Someone, anyone, get out," I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. "Both of you. Just get out." They left, whispering to each other like conspirators. I slammed the door behind them, the sound echoing the hollow ache in my chest. Later that night, I called my parents again. I told them about the confrontation, about the paternity test. My dad sighed, a long, exasperated sound. "Ethan," he said, his voice dripping with disapproval, "you need to be the bigger man here. A child needs a father, regardless of the circumstances. You need to step up and do the right thing." The right thing? Was he seriously suggesting I raise another man's child? After they'd both betrayed me in the worst possible way, my mom, ever the peacemaker, added, "Maybe you should try to work things out with Serafina. Relationships take work, Ethan. You can't just give up at the first sign of trouble." Work. This wasn't a leaky faucet or a squeaky door. This was a nuclear explosion in the middle of my life. That's when it hit me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was toxic. My parents weren't just distant, they were delusional. They were more concerned with appearances and financial stability than with my actual happiness. And Serafina and Caleb, they were monsters. Manipulative, selfish monsters. I hung up on my parents. I didn't even say goodbye, I just hung up. And in that moment I knew I had to fight, for myself, because no one else would. A week later, and things have gone from bad to worse. Seriously, Reddit, I didn't think it was possible, but Serafina and Caleb have somehow managed to escalate this whole insane situation. They've started this subtle, insidious campaign to make me look like the bad guy. Like I'm the one who screwed up. It started with cryptic social media posts. Serafina posted a picture of herself cradling her barely there bump, captioned, "Going through a tough time but staying strong for this little one. Single mom blessed." Caleb commented, "You're amazing, he doesn't know what he's missing." The audacity of this guy, I'm seething just typing this. Then at a mutual friend's birthday party, yes, I stupidly went, hoping for some semblance of normalcy, they were all over each other. Whispering, glancing at me, making sure I saw them. When I tried to talk to some friends, they'd quickly excuse themselves, giving me these pitying looks. Like I'm some kind of leper. One friend, Sarah, actually cornered me and said, "Ethan, I know you're hurting, but you need to think about the baby." Serafina's really struggling. I wanted to scream, struggling? SHES the one who lied and cheated, but it gets worse. Much worse. Serafina's mother called my parents, and proceeded to tear them a new one apparently, screaming about how I'm a heartless monster abandoning a pregnant woman. My mom called me practically in tears. "Ethan, this is getting out of hand, you need to fix this, people are talking." Fix this. How am I supposed to fix this? They're the ONES who broke it. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't sleep, I can't eat, I'm a walking zombie. Work is suffering. I snapped at my boss yesterday, which has never happened before. I'm losing it. I'm actually losing it. And then, this morning, I got a text from Caleb. A text from the guy who slept with my fiancée and is now trying to extort me for child support for a child that isn't even mine. The text read, "Think about your reputation, Ethan. Do you really want this to get messy? It's not too late to do the right thing." The right thing? Is he threatening me? THATSIT, I'm done. This has gone too far. I'm not going to let them bully me into submission. I'm not going to let them ruin my life. I'm going to fight back, I don't know how yet, but I will. I'm going to expose them for the liars and manipulators they are, even if it's the last thing I do. So I was a wreck, absolutely shattered. I barely left my apartment, couldn't focus on anything. The social media whispers, the pitying looks, Caleb's veiled threats, it was all crushing me. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies and betrayal. I finally broke down and called my Aunt Carol. She's a force of nature, a lawyer, sharp as a tack, zero tolerance for BS. I hadn't really talked to her about the whole mess, just vague mentions of relationship trouble. But I couldn't keep it bottled up anymore. I started hesitantly, stumbling over the words. "Aunt Carol, I don't know what to do. Serafina's pregnant, but it's not mine. It's Caleb's, my best friend. They had an affair, and now they're making me out to be the bad guy, saying I'm abandoning her. They're posting stuff online, people are talking." My voice cracked. I felt like a pathetic, blubbering mess. There was a silence on the other end, and for a second I panicked. I thought she was going to judge me, tell me I was overreacting, like my parents. But then she spoke. "Ethan," she said, her voice sharp with concern, "start from the beginning, tell me everything." So I did, I spilled it all. The PCOS lie, the discovered texts, the pictures, the confrontation, the paternity test I'd insisted on, the social media smear campaign, the threatening texts from Caleb, my parents' insane reaction, everything. When I was finished, there was another silence. This one was longer, heavier. Then Aunt Carol let out a low whistle. "Wow," she said, her voice laced with disbelief. "Ethan, honey, you're being played, royally played." "I know," I choked out. "But what can I do? They're making me look like a monster." "Ethan," she said firmly, "stop right there. You are not a monster, you're a victim. They are manipulating you, trying to guilt you into taking responsibility for their mistakes. And frankly, it's disgusting." Hearing those words, it was like a punch to the gut, but in a good way. Like someone had finally turned on the lights in a dark room. "But the baby," I stammered. "What about the baby?" "The baby is not your responsibility, Ethan," Aunt Carol said, her voice unwavering. "You did not create this situation. They did. And you have every right to protect yourself, legally and emotionally. In fact," she added, her voice hardening, "you need to protect yourself. They are clearly willing to go to any lengths to get what they want." Then, she said something that completely shifted my perspective. "Ethan," she said gently, "your parents' emotional distance isn't your fault. You've spent your whole life trying to earn their love, and that's made you vulnerable to this kind of manipulation. You deserve better. You deserve genuine love and respect, and you need to stop letting these toxic people control your life. It was like a dam broke inside me. I started to cry, not from sadness, but from relief. Someone finally understood. Someone finally saw me. I don't know what to do, I whispered, feeling lost and overwhelmed. I do, Aunt Carol said, her voice firm and reassuring. First, we're going to get you a lawyer, a good one. Then we're going to gather all the evidence you have, the texts, the pictures, everything. And then we're going to fight back. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The fear and self-doubt started to recede, replaced by a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could get through this. Maybe I could finally break free from this nightmare. And it was all thanks to my Aunt Carol. She was my lifeline, my saving grace. I was at my wit's end. Aunt Carol's support had given me a much-needed boost, but the constant anxiety was eating me alive. Then it happened, the final straw. I was scrolling through Instagram, trying to distract myself from the impending doom of my life when I saw it. Serafina had posted a picture of baby clothes, tiny little socks and onesies. Cute, right? Wrong. The caption was what sent me over the edge. It read, "Getting ready for our little one. Can't wait to meet you, Ethan Jr., blessed babyboy family. ETHAN Jr., are you dating me?" She hadn't even bothered to wait for the paternity test results. She was already publicly claiming the baby was mine. My blood ran cold. Then I saw the comments. Friends and family congratulating her, gushing about how cute Ethan Jr. would be. My stomach churned. I felt sick. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was a full-blown assault on my reality, but it got worse. So much worse. I clicked on a link someone had posted in the comments. It was a parenting forum. And there, in black and white, was a post from Serafina. She was asking about legal loopholes to list the father on the birth certificate even if the paternity test proved he wasn't the biological parent. She was actually trying to trap me. Force me to pay child support for a child that wasn't even mine. The audacity of this woman. It was unbelievable. I felt a wave of rage wash over me, so intense it was almost physical. My hands shook. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't about guilt or self-doubt anymore. This was about survival. I was being hunted, preyed upon, and I was done being the victim. Something snapped inside me. It was like a switch flipped. The fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, it all evaporated. I was no longer the heartbroken, confused mess I had been. I was furious, empowered, determined. I knew with absolute certainty that I had to fight back. I had to protect myself. I had to expose these liars for who they really were. I stood up, my legs shaking but my resolve firm. I grabbed my phone and called Aunt Carol. "We need to meet," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I have something to show you." This was war. All right, Reddit, buckle up, because this is where things get interesting. After I saw that forum post from Serafina, something in me snapped. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore, this was about war. And I was going to be ready. First, I contacted the lawyer Aunt Carol recommended. He was a shark, exactly what I needed. We laid out everything. The fake PCOS diagnosis, the affair with proof, thank God I saved those texts and photos, Serafina's social media manipulation, Caleb's threatening messages, and the bombshell Serafina's research into those legal loopholes. The lawyer was livid. He said this was a textbook case of attempted paternity fraud. Next, documentation. I printed out every single incriminating text, photo, email, and social media post. I even took screenshots of Serafina's forum posts. I organized it all into a binder, labeled and indexed. Think Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, but with less pink and more rage. This wasn't just evidence, it was my armor. Then I secured my apartment. Changed the locks, installed a security camera just in case. Paranoia, maybe. But these two had already proven they were willing to go to any LENGTHS to get what they wanted. I wasn't taking any chances. I also cut off all financial ties with Serafina. Closed our joint bank account, canceled our shared credit cards. I knew she was after my money, and I wasn't going to make it easy for her. This was a scorched earth policy, and I was committed. But the biggest change wasn't the practical stuff. It was my mindset. I went from feeling like a victim to a warrior. I stopped second-guessing myself, stopped wondering if I was somehow to blame. Aunt Carol's words kept echoing in my head. "You are not a monster, you're a victim." And she was right. I deserved better, I deserved respect. And I was finally ready to fight for it. I started working out, hitting the gym like a maniac. It wasn't just about getting in shape. It was about channeling my anger, my frustration, my pain into something productive. It was about reclaiming my power. I also started seeing a therapist. I needed to unpack all the years of emotional neglect from my parents, the need for validation that made me so susceptible to Serafina's manipulation. This was a long game, and I was in it for the long haul. The day of the confrontation, I woke up feeling calm, almost serene. I put on my best suit, the one I'd bought for the wedding that would never happen. I looked in the mirror and saw a different person staring back at me. Not the heartbroken, confused mess I'd been a few weeks ago. This was a man who knew his worth. A man who was ready to fight for what was right. A man who was finally, truly free. I grabbed my binder of evidence, took a deep breath, and walked out the door. It was game time. The air in the lawyer's office was thick with tension. It was a small, sterile room, the kind that smelled faintly of bleach and regret. My lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a man built like a linebacker with a voice to match, sat beside me. Across the table sat Serafina, looking pale and slightly less Instagram-ready than usual. Caleb fidgeted beside her, avoiding eye contact. Good, let him squirm. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, his voice booming in the confined space. Mr. Davis has brought us here today to address a serious matter, he began, his gaze fixed on Serafina and Caleb. A matter of paternity fraud, to be precise. Serafina gasped, placing a hand dramatically over her fake baby bump. Fraud, how dare you? Ethan is the father. Is he, Ms. Hayes? Mr. Henderson asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Because according to these DNA test results, he continued, sliding a document across the table, the probability of Mr. Davis being the father is 0%. Zero, zilch, nada. Serafina's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening in what I could only describe as panicked disbelief. Caleb went even paler, if that was possible. He looked like he was about to throw up. This was the turning point. The moment the power shifted, I finally had the upper hand. But the PCOS, she stammered, her voice trembling. A convenient lie, Mr. Henderson stated flatly. A lie designed to manipulate my client into believing he was the father of your child, a child conceived during your months-long affair with Mr. Evans. He gestured towards the binder of evidence I'd meticulously compiled. We have the texts, the photos, the social media posts, the whole sordid story. I opened the binder, my hands no longer shaking. This was my moment, my time to speak. You lied to me, Serafina, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You used me, you and Caleb both. You thought you could trap me, force me to pay for your mistakes. But you were wrong. My voice rose with each word. I'm not stupid anymore. I see you for who you really are. Caleb finally looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and shame. Ethan, I'm sorry, man, it just happened. Happened, I scoffed. You betrayed me, Caleb, you stabbed me in the back, you knew she was my fiancée, and you still went after her, you're a coward. Serafina started to cry, those fake, manipulative tears that used to work so well on me. But not anymore. Ethan, please, I love you, we can still be a family. A family? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think we can be a family after all this? After the lies, the betrayal, the attempted extortion? You're delusional. Mr. Henderson cut in, his voice firm. Ms. Hayes, Mr. Evans, I advise you to refrain from contacting Mr. Davis again. Any further attempts to harass or manipulate him will result in legal action. Do I make myself clear? They both nodded dumbly, their faces ashen. They'd been played, outmaneuvered, and they knew it. I stood up, feeling a surge of something I hadn't felt in weeks, power. We're done, I said, looking directly at Serafina. You're on your own. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving them sitting there in stunned silence. The weight that had been crushing me for weeks finally lifted. I was free. Update. Life after the paternity fraud nightmare. Hey Reddit, remember me? Ethan, the guy whose fiancée tried to trap him with a fake pregnancy and his best friend? Yeah, well, it's been a few months since the confrontation at the lawyer's office, and I wanted to give you all an update. Things are complicated. The immediate aftermath was chaos. The story spread like wildfire through our social circle. Some people were shocked, others whispered I knew it. And some, unbelievably, still sided with Serafina and Caleb. My parents, bless their clueless hearts, finally seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. They actually apologized for their initial reaction and have been surprisingly supportive since then. It's not the emotional intimacy I've always craved, but it's a start. Aunt Carol, of course, has been my rock. She's the real MVP in all of this. As for Serafina and Caleb, let's just say their reputations are tarnished. Caleb's family was mortified and basically shipped him off to another state to escape the gossip. Serafina, well, she's facing some serious financial hardship. Turns out, being an influencer isn't as lucrative when your followers know you're a manipulative liar. Karma, right? I haven't spoken to either of them since that day in the lawyer's office, and I have no intention of ever doing so. It's been 6 months now, and things are slowly starting to get back to normal. I'm still in therapy, working through my deep-seated need for validation and my tendency to put others' needs before my own. It's hard, but I'm finally starting to understand that I deserve better. I'm learning to set boundaries, to trust my instincts, and to prioritize my own well-being. And honestly, it feels amazing. I've also reconnected with some real friends, the ones who stood by me through all of this. They're the family I choose. Work is going well, too. I got a promotion recently, which is a testament to how much my focus and productivity have improved since cutting out the toxicity. I'm sleeping better, eating healthier, and actually enjoying life again. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, of course. There are still days when the anger and hurt resurface. Days when I question myself, wondering how I could have been so blind. But those days are getting fewer and farther between. I'm still single, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I need time to heal, to focus on myself, to build a life that's based on genuine connection and self-respect, not manipulation and lies. I'm not looking for validation anymore. I'm looking for happiness. And that's a huge step forward. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. A roller coaster of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately liberation. I'm free, truly free. And that's a feeling I wouldn't trade for anything. What about you, Reddit? Anyone else been through something similar? How did you cope? Would love to hear your stories and advice.